Friends, here we are on November 12th, 2013. Somebody just pointed out to me that's 11-12-13. That's a pretty interesting fact, that the month, the day, and the year just come right in a row. But anyway, I want to get right to the election. For those of you who didn't have an opportunity to watch us Tuesday night live from City Hall, it was pretty messed up, I thought. And I want to apologize for that, only for myself, because the crew that's there, they do the city council meetings, the equipment's all there, so everything seems to work pretty good. And one of the mistakes that I made, I think, is we should have had a production meeting before we went down. And that's usually part of the business. You sit down and just discuss things that can probably go wrong or not go wrong, or whatever. However, we're going to do this, so many minutes here, so many minutes there. But anyway, we had decided before we left to go on the air at 7:45. That would give us 15 minutes or 20 minutes before, as usual, the results begin to come in. But there was a change this year. Every other year, we'd sit down there, Paul and I, or whoever, and we'd talk to a few political people that might be hanging around City Hall waiting for the results. And then at 5-10 minutes past 8, the results would come in from each school, and they'd bring a little piece of paper, and you could read that Rosa DiTucci was beating Kevin Meaney, something like that. But this year it was different. What happened was they kept all the papers in the city clerk's office, and they were finished. They came out with a piece of paper that looks like this. It got all the graphs and numbers and everything on it. But that didn't happen until about 20 minutes, I think 20 minutes past 8. So people had to listen to me mumbling from 7:45 till like 20 past, I don't know what time it was. But anyway, there's two things I want to say. I want to apologize for that, because that was a mistake. That won't happen again. Next year we'll do better. And the other thing was, I want to thank Mike Mulrennan, because he came right in and rescued me, because he saw me sitting there like a dope yakking away about nothing. And so he sat down, so we talked a little bit about his life as a politician. And then my friend, Mr. Dwyer, the representative from the 30th Middlesex District, he was home watching. And he called my house, he called my phone, and I didn't have my phone with me. It was at home. So, of course, he didn't get a hold of me. He saw me sitting here just trying to pass time. And he came down, and we sat, and I always give him a pretty bad time. But I want to thank those two guys for putting up with me yakking at them for a couple of minutes. But anyway, the results came in, and for anybody that was in the South Pole or Antarctica or wherever, Scott Galvin was reelected as the mayor of the city of Woburn for his third term. For Alderman at large, Mike Concannon, the new guy, he kind of finished second to the mayor, I think, or maybe second, third to Mulrennan and the mayor in votes. And that's something that happens historically. I think if you were interested in this stuff, as I am, because I go over these numbers and look at them pretty closely. So he comes in, brand new guy comes in, and we knocked off the president of the city council, Paul De Niro, after a long, illustrious career. He was, I forget how many years, must have been on a school committee for 10 years, and then worked his way from alderman at large to president of the city council. So he had a good career. He gave back to the city. He's a good guy, and we wish him well in the future. And school committee race was pretty interesting, because we had two vacancies. Mr. Russell and Mrs. Massoda retired, so that left two openings. And Ellen Crowley and Joe Demers filled those two seats. So now we have two new members on the school committee. And one of the things that you have to be careful with, if you ever want to run for school committee, change your name to Albert Aarons, like in the Aarons commercials, on furniture commercials, because it has two A's in the beginning, and you will be #1 on the ballot, because it makes a big difference in the school committee races, because it goes in alphabetical order by the incumbents first. By the incumbents first. So they get their names first in alphabetical order, and then the new people trying to get on are under those 4, 5, or 6, or whatever there are, 7, and then they get their names in alphabetical order. So if your name is Viola, you better change it, because you're going to be dead last unless you think you can get a whole bunch of votes that are very difficult to get to begin with. But to be very last, you're always going to be last if you run for school committee. And that's just how it is. I don't know how it started that way, and I don't know why it is that way, but it's not fair. They should draw straws or do something, mix them up, and see if some of the people who finished first, Mrs. Chisholm did very well. Mike Mulroney got 4 years, and John Wells, my former neighbor on Vernon Street, did all right. And then Mrs. Crowley and Joe Demers. So I mean, you can get on there, but it's very difficult. Very difficult, because that's how they do it. They put you in alphabetical order. So, back to the wards. Stanley Malva, this is still the school committee. Stanley Malva Rosa and Charles Viola. Unfortunately, Mr. Viola with the V, because I look at this stuff and you know why? Because my name is with W. And when you're W and V, you spend the rest of your life at the end of the line. All right, Mrs. DeTucci in Ward 1, she won, got reelected. Dickie Gately didn't have any competition. I don't know why, but he didn't. He must be doing a good job. He's my alderman. I voted for him, but I didn't have any other choice. Mark Gaffney beat Mr. Charest, so he got reelected. Michael Dean Anderson, the alderman from Ward 4, he did very well, because he didn't have any competition either. Mrs. Bruin did very well against James Fletcher. They had quite a spirited battle over there, I think, in Ward 5. But Mrs. Bruin got reelected. Mike Raymond got reelected. But my friend who works for the Revolution soccer team, Recchia, Francisco Stefano Recchia. I hope I pronounced that right. Nice guy, had an opportunity to interview him. I hope he stays involved. And Ray Drapeau over in the west side didn't have any competition, so he was reelected. So there's a few new people on the city council. So that'll be good, because now you get a new mayor, new committee people, have a new president of the city council. We'll find out how he gets along with the mayor, because they're the ones that control everything. The mayor is in 98% in control, and then the president of the city council is in 2%, and the aldermen, they probably have nothing to say, because all they do is write resolves and hope that the mayor does what they ask. But that's how it works. Because we have, I think it's there's a kind of government we have, I think it's e-government. I think the city of Boston has almost the same government. They have more councils, naturally it's a bigger place, but I think like the Mayor Menino, 20 years, he stayed there for 20 years, just in charge of the whole operation. He doesn't need anybody to have to ask anybody anything, he just does it. And basically in the city of Woburn, it's the same thing. Once you get the budget passed, you're in, you're free ride. So I think what we'll find out when we go down and talk to the mayor, I think sometime between now and Christmas, we'll go down and have a little talk with him for half an hour or so. And we'll find out, I'm sure, right away. He's probably got the budget, pretty much, I'm not going to say finished, but I would say he knows pretty much how to do it now. He's done 5 or 6 of them. And plus, he was on the city council for all that time before that, so he knows pretty much how to do the budget. So he'll be interested to see what he's got on his mind for the next 2 years. So that's the results, and I want to apologize again for the way the thing was handled on our live production on election night, but I'll make sure next year, as the results come in, we'll just be able to give them to you right quick, instead of waiting for the end result, which is all right too, but if we had planned it that way, we probably could have, entertained you a little bit more better while we were waiting for the results. We could have had somebody do a tap dance or something. But anyway, let's see what Mrs. Ahern has here for us. November 12th, 2013. This is the Monday night show done on Tuesday. Do we have sports today? No sports, okay. Because I know the high school is doing very well, but I don't want to say anything because I don't know exactly how it's working. But we'll be able to pick up the times and figure that out. November is Pancreatic Cancer Month. So the purple lights are now up on the trees outside City Hall. We were pink for a while because we were on I think it was breast cancer awareness. So now I don't know if this is something that changes every month or how they're going to do that. I don't even know whether they put a purple bulb in or they put a plastic thing inside the light to make it look purple. But I think it's a cool thing to do. I think it's a pretty cool thing to do. Show that the city of Woburn, of the residents, or the government, or the administration is interested in seeing if we can't support some of these things. But it isn't so much putting a purple light on at City Hall. It's giving money to these associations to try and spend the money so the doctors can cure some of these bad cancers, and pancreatic cancer is one of the worst. So this is the month we're going to celebrate that. I don't know if we should celebrate Pancreatic Cancer Month. That sounds right. I don't want to celebrate it. In fact, I like to eliminate it, but I think that's how they say it. Municipal Building Consultants was chosen by, that's the firm that is the in between the contractor and the city. They supervise what the contractor does according to the architect and the plans and all that. And the guy that runs this Municipal Building Consultants, I think his name is Patrick Sieda, he's been here for a long time. He's built 4 or 5 of these schools, the high school included. So there's a lot of competition for this job, because I'm sure I don't know how much the contract is, but I'm sure it's a pretty good deal. So he comes in here, and I'm sure he has employees that come in here, and they supervise or just watch, what the plumbers are doing, the electric, all the people that work in the schools are doing, outside, inside, on the roof, in the cellar, make sure the place is done exactly the way the architect designed it. So that's another step, that's another duck in the row, policy. Put your ducks in a row. Well, that duck is right there. So we're all set. We have a Municipal Building Consultants is the name of his company out of North Andover, and he's been chosen. So the next step is he'll be involved with the building committee that the mayor appoints, and then they'll sit down and they'll have a big conference, and they'll have to elect an architect. And then we go with the plans and where the school's going to be. There's a whole bunch of stuff to be done yet. But they're getting there. They're getting there very slowly. Woburn's winter parking ban begins on Friday, the 15th. That's this week. So if there's no snow, you have to park on the odd side of the street. So mark that down on the calendar. So between 2 in the morning and 6 in the morning. If you're parked on the street, you have to be on the odd side. So when it snows, you can't be on the street at all. So if you get a ticket, it's $20, and then if you don't pay the ticket, it goes up and up and up. And then if you never pay it, they won't renew your license and all that kind of stuff. It gets kind of complicated. So just kind of mark these little things. I'm sure it was in the paper. So just mark these little things on the calendar, you know. On a night like tonight, it's going to be cold. So if you park on the street, make sure it's on the odd side, because the 15th is coming. You want to practice to be over there in front of somebody else's house. So then if it snows, you got to get off the street. People say, oh, get off the street. Where are we going to go? I had an opportunity for a few years. I drove a truck for a living. We used to go over through Brookline. Now, Brookline is like a city. It's almost like part of Boston. It's apartment houses, big, beautiful neighborhoods and all that stuff, but it's almost like part of Boston. And they have no parking on the streets at night. You can't park on the streets. So we'd go over there. We have work at night, so we'd go work at night. We'd drive over through Alston and Brighton and into Brookline, and all of a sudden, you don't see any cars. They say all these high buildings and apartment houses and all this. Where do the cars go? I don't know. So if they can get all the cars off the streets in the town of Brookline, then all the cars can get off the streets in the city of Woburn. You know, ask your neighbor if you can park over there, whatever you have to do, but just get the car off the street. And that way you don't have any trouble getting a ticket and then having your license renewed and all that kind of stuff. So forget about it. Okay, we talked a little bit about the mayor. The other thing, without getting into these two things, okay, Galvin wins the Narrowhead after 6 terms. That's pretty good. So Paul, you did a good job, 6 terms. School committee, Crowley and Demers joined Wells, Chisholm, and Mulrennan. Okay, so that takes care of the election. The other thing I want to say about the election is, from John Flaherty down to Mr. Viola at the school committee, and everybody in between who had an opportunity, Fletcher and East Woburn, all these people put their name out there, collected the signatures, went door to door, talked to people, tell them what they're going to do, you know, open their bodies up, their soul, and say, this is what I want to do. I want to get down to that city and help make the city a better place to live. And they couldn't convince enough people to win. Don't be ashamed of yourself. I'm very proud of anybody that's ever put their name on a ballot. So if you ever had your name on a ballot and you know how much hard work it is to get out there every day in the afternoon, you go home from work, you got to get dressed, and now as the time has changed, it gets worse because it's dark, and you're banging on somebody's door, it's supper time, and all that kind of stuff. And then the weekends, you can't go to the beach, you can't do anything, you got to go to knock on doors and have coffee parties and all that stuff. So for all the losers, I say, I'm very proud of you. And you should hang your head up high, you know what I mean? Hold your head up and you'll be all right. Because if we didn't have this form of government, people running against each other and trying to convince us to vote for you or me or whoever, then we'd be in big trouble. I don't want to live in any place where there's only one name on the can and one name on the ballot. That's why I think some of these guys that get used to being on the city council, nobody running against them, you know, in a city, you could almost make an exception for a small town or a city like Woburn, but I think it doesn't hurt to have some competition, you know, because I say I can do a better job than you, you say no, but sit down, discuss it, and the people get a chance to vote. All right, the city clerk, an excellent city clerk we have in the city of Woburn. He said 35% of the people would vote. That was his guesstimate. And he's usually pretty good at it too. And so what happened was the voter turnout was at 39%. So what happened? Now, this is something that I've had an opportunity in my old age to watch over the years, and this all started when telephones came into the picture. The candidates will put somebody in the election place, say at the Shamrock School, any school, wherever there's the people. And when you come in and say your name, they have a list of all the voters, and they cross your name off. And then as the day progresses, they've crossed all these names off. So around 5 o'clock, somebody comes in and collects all the names of all the people who haven't voted yet. And they're usually people who are just getting home from work. They didn't vote in the morning, they worked all day, and they're just getting home now. So now, the candidate who has done this work and checked all these names and everything, he starts to call the people up. And that's why it started with phones, because they didn't send smoke signals up when before they had telephones. But it was a very difficult job when you had a landline and you had a dial and all that. So they'd go to different people's houses. Now everybody's got a cell phone, so it's a little bit easier. So as the article in the Times pointed out, that there was a big push of people coming to vote right after they get home from work. So they were getting the message to come down and vote. Make sure you vote, make sure you vote, make sure you vote. So from say 5 to 6 or 6:30, the thing went up. So the city clerk missed his 35, and it turned out to be 39. Now, everybody say, yippee, 39% of the 20,000 people in the city of Woburn, around 20,000, 24,000 or whatever it is, voted. I think it's outrageous. You know, think about it. It goes back to the people who are running for office. These people are out there, they run for office, they go out banging on every door in the street. Some people don't come to the door. Some people say, get off my property. Some people talk to you for half an hour, take up half your evening or whatever, and then you look later on and they don't even vote. So the whole thing, that going door to door, as far as I'm concerned, it's a waste of time. But you couldn't convince anybody of that. So you have, I don't know why they don't vote. Why don't people vote? I think they vote for president at higher numbers. You know, maybe they think the senators and the congressmen or somebody like that is more important. But I don't think so, and I think it should be higher. Maybe we should educate the kids in elementary school, because that's where you have to start with them and say, don't be a litter bug, they make you pick up the mess. Don't drive the car without the seatbelt on. I get in the car, my grandson looks at me like I'm crazy if I don't have the seatbelt on. Stuff like that. So you gotta educate the kid. Vote, vote, vote. They come in here, they vote for class president and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden they leave and here's somebody that's gonna run the whole city of Woburn for them and they don't vote. I don't understand it at all. But somebody smarter than me will straighten it all out someday. Under education notes, the school board approved a trip to the Big Apple. I hope they've all walked on the Freedom Trail and the Constitution and Bunker Hill and all those places we have around here before they get to go to the Big Apple. But I'm sure as they've been through middle school and started in the high school, all the places in Massachusetts have been visited. So that's what the school committee does. They vote to let the children go on trips here and there. And then they vote to have the children have fundraisers. That's another thing the school committee does. And then the school committee will have, they worry about, I was reading in the paper, my friend John Wells worried about how many clubs we have and whether we're paying too many teachers too much money to have too many clubs. I don't get it. I'd rather have them talking about the new ways to educate the children. You know, it has to change. Something's wrong. Something's changing. You know, you have all these arguments. We're dealing with the teaching to the tests and all that kind of stuff. And then you see a picture in the paper of the superintendent of schools, Donovan, with a couple of kids that are just academic wonders. You know what I mean? It makes you feel good. Then all this stuff that happens during the election, you say, well, see, that's all smoke and mirrors and all that kind of stuff, because I think we're putting out a pretty good product here. In fact, I'm going to have a little conversation in a week or so with the principal, and we'll ask him exactly where we are in the school. Because now that the election is over and some of the things have been brought up and things, you can say, what about that? Is that true, or is it half true? Most things are half true or not true. So we'll see what we can find out from him. There's There's a couple of things that I wanted to say here in a few minutes we got left. This is the Boston Globe North section from November the 7th. And this comes out on Thursday. You can't see this, but every Thursday there's a graph up here on the top of the paper. Let me hold it over this way a little bit. Okay, see that graph? So there's always something. How many motorcycles in every town per 1,000 people? Kind of crazy stuff like that. But in this particular snapshot, they call it, it shows, first let me say this here, north. So if you said from Woburn up to like New Hampshire, Tingsboro, Tewksbury, Wilmington, all the way up to Lowell, and went east to Newburyport, Gloucester, and down towards Everett and Somerville. That square there, that's north. That's what the Globe considers north. So those are the cities and towns that are in there. And it says, what percentage of all property taxes, what the residential percentage of property taxes for fiscal year 2013. And the highest ones are Boxford, where 96.5% of the tax rate, tax money, is collected from the resident. They have no industry there, apparently. So let me say, 96.5% of the taxes in Boxford are paid by residential taxpayers. So that means there's no industry. And there's another town here, West Newbury. I think that's up on the Merrimack River up near Methuen or somewhere like that. And that they have 96.5. The state average is 87.3%. Woburn, Everett, and Burlington are the lowest, and they're in the low 60%. So therefore, it's location, location, location. Burlington, you go up to Burlington, they have the mall, and all of that side of Burlington is commercial buildings. You go up to Middlesex Pike, and it's amazing how much commercial property they have. We look at our industrial park, and we're sitting on 128 also. We have a tremendous amount of industry here. So therefore, that keeps our tax rate low. And the third one was Everett, which is, I had some time in Everett. They used to call it the city of diversified industries when Monsanto and Exxon and the whole city, it's not as big as this table. And there's a lot of people live there, and they have a lot of industry there. So those three are the three lowest in the north section of the globe. So I think that's a pretty interesting thing, because it's just apparently goes by location, because Boxford is up near 495 and it's pretty rural, and I'm sure West Newbury is up near New Hampshire line, and that must be pretty rural. So people like to live there, but nobody wants to have a commercial building there. So here we come down to 128, and here we are with Burlington and Woburn right next to each other, with two of the lowest tax rates in this north section. Okay, 3 minutes. Well, we got 1 minute left here. So let me say this here. I saw a sign in front of the courthouse down there. It said, bring your prescription drugs here. Mike Higgins, I think in the probation department, they come in here, they do a show. They had Chris Herron in here, former Celtic basketball player, talking about drugs. Prescription drugs are a problem. That's another article that was in here. And because you go to have a headache, and you go to the doctor, gives you a prescription, you get 50 Oxycontins or Vicodin or some kind of a big heavy drug. You take 4, and there's 48 of them are left in the jug. You put it in the medicine cabinet, and if there's teenagers around or adults who are addicted to that kind of stuff, they steal them, or they get them, or I don't know how people do it. I don't know anything about pills, but I know that's an epidemic. So the idea is to get rid of them. Go through your medicine cabinet and get rid of all that stuff. The other thing is heroin. There's always been a heroin addict near the ocean. Now, if you live near the ocean, the ships come and they might have heroin on. They might be coming from Italy. They could be coming from Greece. They could be coming from Africa, Korea, wherever they come, Afghanistan, and they got heroin on there, and they smuggle it into the country. And then the first place they get is usually there's an epidemic of heroin. Now, heroin's a dangerous thing. I don't know anything about OxyContin and Vicodin and all those pills. I heard you buy a pill. I don't know even how much they cost. They're expensive though, and you create quite a buzz. But they're very addictive. More people have died from prescription overdoses of opiates. They call it opiates, than die in Massachusetts in car accidents. Now, can you believe that? That's outrageous. And if anybody says, do you want to try some heroin, punch them. Punch them in the face and run home. And if they sue you, be glad they're suing you, because you'll be very glad to get rid of them. It's a very addictive drug, and it's very dangerous. And like the woman says in this article in the Globe, once you become addicted to something, you're addicted to it for the rest of your life. You may not use it, and it may never affect you again after you come clean, but it's there. It's always there, you know, because you can't use it again unless you pick it up. You pick it up and you drink it, or you pick it up and swallow it, or you pick it up and cook it up and inject it in your arm. Very, very dangerous stuff, this stuff. So once you become addicted, you're addicted the rest of your life. So don't even go near it. Don't even go near it. And anybody suggests it is not a friend of yours. And tell them that too. Say, you're no friend of mine if you want me to try this stuff out, because this stuff is dangerous. Look at all this stuff, this Molly and all this stuff they talk about, going out to a club and you're having a couple of drinks, some dope puts it in your drink, and then it's rape and pillage. This stuff is all dangerous, so be very, very careful of what you're doing. And don't be afraid to say no. In the long run, you're going to be a lot better off. So that's my sermon tonight, Lauren. We're going to be out of here. Thanks for listening. Next time.